folks. How is everybody doing this morning? Welcome to Adobe Live. My name is VooDoo Val, and I am going to be your host for yet another daily creative challenge for Photoshop. And today is an illustration day. I'm very excited. You guys know that I love my illustration, and I do like to share with you methods and things that you folks can do when it comes to generating illustrative pieces, even if you only have use of the mouse. And we will do a little bit of that today, but for the most part, we're going to be straight up illustrating, and I've got a really awesome starter file prepared for you folks. So if you will check out the description below, you can download the file that I'm working with, and it is actually pretty awesome. So I'm going to pop over here to my screen. This is our challenge number 2, and we are going to be designing our very own bobbleheads, because coming up in the next few challenges we are going to also be animating and doing all sorts of really awesome stuff. And so we're kind of prepping an illustration. If you would like to do this challenge with me and just have yourself a pretty cool customized little character, you can. But if you'd like to participate further on in the challenges, we will be kind of designing this for animation. So this is my little bobblehead, as you can see here, with our information. Using simple shapes, create a unique bobblehead character with textures and dimension. So it's gonna be pretty fun. I see Robert in the chat, welcome in. I also see Marcia. I see 1989 Critic in the YouTube chat. Is good to see ya. Sam Peterson, the one and only, holding down the fort in the chat for us today. Clarissa, welcome in. General Kenobi, hello there. Patrick, I see you. Oliver, it is so good to see all of you folks. Thank you all for joining me. Steve, Festus, Casaboom, the man with the name, it's good to have you in the chat. Carol, Afroja, thank you, friends, for joining me. Daniel, hello. So we're gonna kind of jam on this. So I'm gonna just kind of go through briefly what we've got going on with our assets here. So we do have the info folder, which I like to package up on its own, just so you guys can hide that and we can just look at what we've got with our piece here. I'm gonna go ahead and make him a little bit larger, so we can take a peek at him a little closer. Maybe like that. We'll put him over on the side just so that we have a little bit of empty space over here. And we're going to peek at all of the inner workings of our bobblehead. So I'm just going to kind of push my, oops, not push it out. We want to pull it up just so you guys can take a look at my layers here. And if I open my bobblehead group, you can see we've got head, front arm, shirt, back arm, shoes, and pants. And if I hide these, you can see they're all their own little pieces here. You see like that? And they all fit into each other. Now, some of these even are smart objects. So if I go into my head, if I just double click, I should be able to double click. Yeah, if I double click my head, you can see that this opens up so that I just double clicked the icon on that. You can see that this kind of opens up my little, my mouth, my brows, my eyes, my hat, all that good stuff, so that I can work on it a little bit more. And I've got all of my little pieces that are customized and everything, so that I have my stuff prepped for anything that I want to change. But what I'd really like to do is kind of show you folks how you can create your own. And you can, if you would like to, you can actually paint into the shapes that I have provided here. So for example, if you wanted to change the color of his shirt and you just want to use the shape that I have created for a shirt here, feel free to either lock transparency on this layer, or you can Control Shift in, Command Shift in if you are working on a Mac. Right click that layer and hit create clipping mask, and you can just create as many clipping masks up above it as you like, and start kind of illustrating your own stuff in here. That is perfectly acceptable if you'd like to use what I've got going on here to alter your piece. So if we snag maybe this blue, we can, maybe we want his shirt to be kind of blue, and maybe we'll come in with a soft round brush and snag I don't know, some of this orange color, and maybe we'll just kind of paint in some orange on the front of that. Or maybe we'll come in with some of this red and do some dark shadows for the back of this red and make his shirt blue. You know, whatever it is that you would like to do, feel free to use the shapes that I provided, but we are going to go through how to kind of create this from scratch, essentially. How I go through choosing colors and how I use very simple shapes to kind of create a fully designed character with a little bit of perspective, a little bit of depth, right? Ted, welcome in. It's good to see you. Marcia, hello, hello. Who else we got in here? You love the Behance challenges, Daniel? Well, I'm so glad. You were able to download the file just fine, all right. Justin, is anyone else in chat getting a relink notification when they open the file? I am not sure, but I'm sure our delightful mod can send a note. It looks like Clarissa is not having any issues downloading the file. Something you might try if you're having some issues downloading is you might try a different browser, or you might try an incognito window, maybe. Perhaps that will work if you're having any issues. Frank, welcome in. It's good to see you, friend. All right, so I'm going to now take our bobblehead and we'll shrink him down because we're gonna be looking at him, but we're not gonna be focusing on him too much. We're kind of gonna be using him as reference because we are going to create something for ourselves. And I'm gonna make a new layer with Control Shift in, Command Shift in if you're working on a Mac today. And I'm going to grab this darker color that I used in his brows just for a kind of a sketch color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap, hold shift, and drag my brush down just to give myself a straight line. In fact, I think I'm going to switch back to the hard round. Also, you'll notice there's a lot of texture in this piece that I'm working on. That is because I have my brush mode set to dissolve. So if you would like the same kind of texture with these basic brushes as I have, go ahead and set that brush mode to dissolve and you will have kind of the same look and feel as me. So I'm just going to hold shift and draw myself a straight line. I'll hold shift and draw myself another line here. Let's go ahead and throw that in. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to draw myself a line here. And then farther away, we can even kind of expand this. Farther away, I'm going to draw myself a line out here, maybe even farther, maybe something like that. The reason why I'm doing this is because we are going to create a kind of depth with our character today, and this is kind of a nice guide for how to place all of the different items and things we're going to be creating in a little bit of perspective, because you can see we kind of have that going on here with our piece. And I will grab just on our own layer here, you can see we kind of have a center line for our character, but really aside from his shoe, you know, this kind of comes up maybe like right here, and his head does break that border, but then like from the side of his other arm over there, and I guess we could even, honestly, we can kind of do it from like right here, from the side of his arm is a little bit wider, right? So we kind of have him turned a little bit this way, don't we? And there are some obvious exceptions to that, like the shoes, like the size of his head and the back of his hat and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it does kind of line up in this sort of vibe. And I think we could even stand to bring this over just slightly, and I will just erase that. This is just, you know, very basic guideline here. And I'm going to turn that on a lower opacity so we can kind of barely see it as we start to really figure out how we're going to do this. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make 3 sections. It's kind of like painting an insect in a way. You have those three portions of the body, and our head is going to be quite large, and our body is going to be almost as large, like so, and then we'll have a little area for the feet. So we'll turn that on a lower opacity because that's going to be kind of our outline for this. And then with another layer, let's go ahead and kind of draw out our shape. Now, if you are like me and you are very comfortable drawing, you might be able to get in here and like kind of illustrate this shape of the head. Something that I encourage all of you folks to do, especially if you are not somebody who likes to illustrate or not somebody who even has access to illustration tools, something that would be maybe good to try here is, you know, you could do this sort of thing like I am, where you draw it out. Or another really cool way to achieve a kind of shape is to use the shape tool, to use basic shapes, and do something like this. I'll go ahead and hide this for now. Let's grab our shape tool. Let's put that on a rectangle. And let's draw this out. We'll draw out a little, you know, kind of oblong square here. And I'm going to pull these corners in so it's a little bit rounded, right? Which is kind of the shape of the head that we're going for. And what I'm going to do is transform this. We'll kind of bring it like so. And then we can duplicate that with Control J or Command J if you're working on a Mac. There we go. And then we'll transform this a little bit smaller, and we'll throw an ear in there that could, you know, kind of serve as his little ear, just like so. And then let's go ahead and we'll just merge these. We can rasterize the layers and Control E or Command E just to merge that together. And then what you can do is with the smoothing up, just in case you're using a mouse, is you can come around with a texture brush and just give the edge that texture. So you kind of already have like this really nice shape that you're working with. And you can just texture those edges like so. You can also maybe use a displacement map, whatever, you know, whatever kind of comes to mind. But this is a really great way. I'm going to turn my shading or my smoothing up just a little bit. But this is a really great way to add a little bit of texture. We will kind of throw that in there. So there are definitely ways that you can achieve this sort of stylized, illustrative look without drawing out the shapes and all that good stuff. So I highly recommend that. Another thing you can do, which I will test a little bit of, is you could perhaps use the pen tool. And I'm just going to rotate my canvas here because I am illustrating today. So rotation is a great way to kind of get these curved lines if it starts to feel a little awkward for my hand. And I've just rotated that by hitting R on my keyboard and dragging. And you can see I've got that little rotation that pops up. And that rotation is actually signaling to me with that red arrow. That red means up. And if I hold Shift and I continue to drag around, you can see it will actually snap for me around the canvas, which makes it very easy to sort of, I guess, align things and remember where you're at. So that is a great way to kind of rotate the canvas, especially if you're illustrating. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm right-handed, but and I do this motion, like this arcing motion really, really well, but I don't really do this arcing motion very well. So flipping my canvas around allows me to paint the way that my hand is most comfortable, and get all the way around whatever piece it is that I'm illustrating. So that works for me for a head. And we can also, let's go ahead and shape the body, but let's use the pen tool for the body. So there's a little head. Let's come in underneath this real quick. And let's go ahead and hit P on our keyboard for the pen tool. Let's select a different color. Let's come up here to our fill and let's select our kind of a dark orange. You can select whichever color you like. You can sample colors, feel free. Sample colors from our little guy here because this is the color palette we were using yesterday as well. And I will just turn this on a lower opacity so I can see through it for now. And I am going to do a little something like this. So let's kind of come around here. I know that this is kind of the shape of the body that we want. So I'm going to come around here and go ahead and kind of bring that down. Now this is the curvature pen tool. So as I click around, it does curve things for me. Which works, you know, really depends on what you want to use. You can actually come in with the pen tool as well. So I can come in and add more points or change points if I like. I think I might actually use the regular pen tool just because I don't want a perfectly round piece. And so what I did was I just tapped once and then tapped again in another location and held that tap to drag. And drag out a rounded shape, like so. We can do the same thing with this if we want to, kind of bring that out a little bit, maybe like so. And then I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to drag this over here so that when I tap, it kind of adds a nice little lip. So there's our shape for our body, and we can drag that underneath our rectangle. We can turn our opacity back up here so we have our little body. And then within this shape, now I'm going to rasterize it because instead of doing I could leave it as a smart object, and I could do again the Control Shift in or Command Shift in to add a little clipping mask, and start illustrating. If I grab my brush, maybe grab this light orange color, grab a soft round brush, I could start painting within this. But another really great thing to do is to lock transparency. So we'll come over here and say rasterize. We'll hit this little lock transparency button here, which is like a little checkerboard, and that means now that I'm just painting within the boundaries of my shape, and I can come in and let's grab like maybe this color, that light pinkish orange, and kind of throw that on there. We can even grab a pinker color. Maybe we want this to be pink, and we can really start kind of illustrating within the realm of our shirt. I can grab my hard round brush again, and let's go ahead and make this smaller. I'm just using my bracket keys to make things smaller or larger. We can grab a little line like so, a little darker color, and kind of start throwing in lines for the t-shirt, maybe lines for the collar as well, similar to how I have things worked out there, and really start building a character. Now you'll know notice I am using kind of directional lines here, right? And I am kind of following the borders of my previous guide. Very loose guide, but a guide nonetheless. And I'm just going to snag these two and hit Control or Command G to group them. And let's put them above here so we can really look. I'm not going to follow this 100%. Really, I think that you should do what feels right to you as you create this character. But you'll notice that I do have some of these swinging, looping shapes here, because I'm trying to give the feel, give that vibe that like he's angled this way, right? He's kind of pointed out that way. And if I do a little line here, you can see, let's grab that dark green. You can see it's almost like he's angled this way. So if you can imagine where his arms would be, little armholes, his arm would kind of be on the side of him right here and continue down this way. See, his legs would be angled along with these as well. So if I put in these little lines for where his legs could be, you can see that we can start to bring them over and offset a lot of these shapes to give that vibe that he's placed in perspective. And the same is true for the eyes. So let me snag this light color. If you were doing a straight-on face with simple shapes, you might do something like this, right? You might do something like that, and then his little mouth. But we want to suggest that his head is turned, especially here, because we do have his ear, you know, kind of on the side of his head here. So we can do a circular shape for one eye, and then I say, do a little oval for this side, you know, kind of give that directional vibe like that, okay? And I think specifically with something like this, because the eyes are so big, it can be very interesting to do something like, let me grab this orange color because we're going to hang off into this area over here. Similar to how I have here, we've kind of almost created like a 3D looking dome shape with this, right? You always forget lock transparency. Yes, lock transparency is kind of incredible, and it's a great way, Marcia, if you're using clipping masks a lot, to attach certain designs, textures, whatever, specifically to a layer that is already a clipping mask, right? Because you can't clip something to a clipping mask. All clipping masks in a row clip down, down, down into the very next layer that is not a clipping mask. So if you'd like to adjust the color or paint within the boundaries of something that's on a layer that's already clipped, using lock transparency is a great way to do that. Let me see if I can jump back into this though. Okay, so with my shading, I have kind of created this this like dome shape almost, right? I feel like it definitely has like that 3D vibe, as you can see there. And I've done that as well with the shape. So we have like this oval shape here, and I've even hung it off the side of our head, you know, like so, and then put our circular eye in the center, and then I've put my mouth closer to this eye here, closer there, because it also has this nice distance in here that gives the eye and gives your viewer the feel that his head is rotated, right? his head is turning. His head is rotated over to the side and he is looking this way. That's what we're trying to do here. And you can do this very easily if you're an illustrator with, you know, just drawing things out. But you can also do this with your shape tools. So we'll come over here, we'll right click, and I think I'm blocking my shape tool. So I'm just gonna pop over here real quick so you can see this. The shape tool is right here. And you might see the rectangle or ellipse or triangle depending on what is default or what you have used previously, but we're going to grab our ellipse tool and I'll pop myself back over to that other end of the screen. And with our fill set to this bright color, we can just drag out first an oval shape, which works. Looking good, and I'll free transform and just kind of drag that into place. And then we can also hold shift and drag out a regular circle. Now I am holding space. I'm holding my space bar here so that I can drag this over as well. I'll release space to kind of drag this because what I want to make sure is that it is lined up and relatively the same height as this. And that looks good to me. So I will hit V on my keyboard to access my move tool and then drag this right over here. Let me select that. Yeah, we'll drag this right over there. So now we've got some little eyes and it starts to look very much like it is in perspective. Now let's go ahead and hide our guides and we'll take a look at how to sort of illustrate this sort of shape in a manner that feels like it is 3D. You know, we're going to make these simple shapes look very unique, very interesting. And obviously we're not going to get through the entirety of like a finished illustration today, but that is why I've done it ahead of time so that you guys can really see how to move forward with some of the techniques that I'm showing you here and kind of apply them to your own character. So let's go ahead and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and group those two together so we have our eyes on the same layer. I might even, if I want to, I might even bump it up just a little bit. Something like that. And then we could even alter it like so. We could do that, but I don't think I will. And I'm going to clip. Let's do a clipping mask because clipping masks are great. We will make sure that our soft round brush is selected. And real quick, before I take off, what we're going to do is, like I said, illustrate this, but we're also going to do a little bit of color theory to like choose colors because I had kind of an inspiration piece. I go to like Pinterest a lot for inspirational pieces to kind of inspire what colors I might choose, but I've altered the color palette of my original inspirational piece to kind of suit my needs here as I needed more than 3 or 4 colors. And so what I have done is, if we're gonna make his eyes orange over here, this is a pretty bright orange, but honestly, accenting with a brighter color is a really great idea. And we'll take a look at our color palette here. If we move this up into the pink zone, something pinkish red would be really good. Then we have like a pink color, and you could come over here to orange and you could just sample a brighter orange, and that looks cool. We can kind of experiment with that. Let's see if we go ahead and kind of throw some bright color in here to make them you know, look a little bit 3D. That's not a bad look, but I think that if you experiment with your color picker here, that you will kind of add a little bit more intrigue to your painting. So let's just bump this up to the pink and note that this is the exact color of pink that matches the same value as this orange. And you could add that in, and it actually looks kind of cool if we go ahead and add that in. So maybe it would be neat to kind of like dot a little bit of it around, but I say also bump up a little slightly less saturated and brighter pink to start adding a little bit more light to it. And that could be super fun to do because I feel like that adds, you know, a little bit of that 3D vibe, but it also starts to really create kind of a like I said, a more intriguing bit of dimension to this by just changing the color slightly. So we can also, let's come back to our orange color. Let's go ahead and select our orange and let's get something that is a little bit darker. So we've got our orange color, and we can come down in here. Let's crank it, you know, a little bit lower into red, and let's go a little bit darker from that same value of red. and let's just put a little bit of that red underneath. And so I encourage you guys, experiment a little bit. Don't just choose darker or lighter versions of the colors you're already using. Get a little more intriguing. Add a little bit of extra intrigue to that. You can take your bright color and even add a little spot of light. This is a great way to also add kind of that 3D effect, and then see what kind of characters you can come up with. I think I'm about out of time, so hopefully being able to see my demos here and also check out what it can look like if you continue to move forward on each piece of your character, you can come up with this. I would love to see what you guys create. Create little bobbleheads of yourselves. Create a bobblehead of me. Create a bobblehead of your favorite pop culture characters. Whatever it is that strikes your fancy, I can't wait to see what you come up with. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial and illustration with simple shapes and putting characters into perspective with good depth and good texture. I will keep my eye on the Discord and see if you folks post any challenge entries, and I will see you tomorrow where we will animate our bobblehead. All right, adios, folks. See you tomorrow.